We are about time to start our webinar. Uh, wow, we already have a lot of attendees with us. Uh, hey guys, welcome everyone to our webinar. We'll start in a couple of minutes. We'll wait for a few more attendees to join. Until then, welcome Will to our webinar. Happy to have you
Hi, thanks for
here.
having me.
Awesome. We'll just start in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I think, I guess throughout the webinar, if anyone's got any questions, just use the Q&A, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. So, feel free to shoot in any questions that you have on the chat box. Happy to answer them. Will is here with us. Let me give you a quick introduction of Will. We'll have an official introduction later, but Will is the founder at Customers Who Click. He specializes in conversion rate optimization for 7- and 8-figure e-commerce stores using the UAM methodology, which we are going to deep dive during the webinar. And he has 12 plus years of experience in B2C. He's also responsible for generating millions in extra revenue for clients by focusing on what their customer want and need from the online experience. Welcome to the webinar.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Awesome. So yeah, I think we have a good quorum now. We can begin. So welcome everyone. Just to set the agenda correct, we are today going to chat about the role of GPT, the so-called about GPT, which was invented, launched last year in November 22, which has changed the world overall. The role of GPT in conversion rate optimization for e-commerce stores. And today we have Will with us, who has been expert in this industry. He has generated millions in revenues by helping brands to optimize conversions on their stores. And this webinar is hosted and sponsored by Manifest AI. It's an AI shopping assistant for e-commerce brands. I am Sonakshi. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Manifest AI. It has been built with a vision to transform e-commerce with AI. So happy to have all of you here, and we are super excited to begin this webinar. Will, over to you.
Well, I suppose we're just going to have a chat.
Yeah.
I think about AI. Obviously, with CRO, a big part of what we do is we're trying to explore what are the problems people have on a website, and how do we fix it. So,
absolutely,
we have our UAM methodology, which is usability, anxiety, motivation.
Yeah.
Just very quickly describe those, and then we can talk about the main
Awesome.
two, which are relevant, which is anxiety and motivation. So usability is essentially, how does the website work? Can I find and buy what I want easily and quickly? The anxiety piece is, what are the questions and concerns that I have about a product and a business? Do I get all the information I need? And do I feel comfortable making that purchase? And then the motivation piece is, what am I trying to achieve by making this purchase? Or what's the pain point I'm trying to solve? Do I feel comfortable that this product is going to help me do that? Now, where we use AI is a little bit on the analytics side, the analysis side. So we will put reviews through it, we'll put customer feedback through it, and we use AI to kind of summarize data a lot of the time. I've generally found, it'd be good to hear your thoughts on this, but I've generally found that AI is really good at taking a request and pulling data and kind of giving you the answer to your question. Or it's really good at taking a load of data, summarizing it for you, and then spitting out a summary. But what I've found it's not very good at doing is kind of answering my questions, right? So it can speed up my route to answering a question, but it can't give me the answer, or it's not very good at that. So for example, reviews. If I ask it, if I give it a load of reviews and ask, what are the main problems people are having with the business, it will kind of pick through it and it summarizes them very, very briefly. And that doesn't give me much to work with. So if the comment is, all the one-star reviews, or a lot of one-star reviews, say the business is slow to ship products, right? And we're not happy with shipping speeds. That's all it will tell me. Generally all it says is shipping speed's the issue. For the purpose of CRO, I still need to go dig into that data to find out what people are actually saying, because that's the bit that matters. And I found it quite difficult to prompt ChatGPT in a way which allows it to pull that exact information out. It just seems to struggle a bit with the context of it, I think. I've found that even quite specific prompts, it will tell me its own interpretation of what that review is saying, rather than pick out the actual bit of the review. So I can even say, please show me an example of a review which mentions this, and it won't give me the exact review. It will give me its own generated piece of content based on the review. And that's why I'm like, well, yeah, that's what I mean about it. It's really good at summarizing and telling me there are 87 reviews have mentioned this. But then it's kind of up to me to be like, right, I need to go find those 87 reviews, find out exactly what they're saying so that I can fix the problem.
Absolutely well. And, while building Manifest AI, the underlying problem statement that since we are part of e-commerce ecosystem for last 3 years, what we understand is e-commerce will not exist if there is no trust. So in the end, what matters to a consumer and as a brand, if you want to grow, the underlying problem statement that you need to solve, either if it's through AI or if it's via the communication or the content that you're putting out, should be building trust. And I believe the UAM methodology that you talked about actually indicatively solves the trust problem. So, while building Manifest AI, the underlying problem statement and the vision that we had was, how do we build enough trust when a consumer visits a brand for the first time? It could be on their website, which is a homepage. It could be on their product page, or if it's about checking out reviews online. The underlying problem statement with AI we wanted to fix was trust. And we totally agree to the fact that if we take ChatGPT in itself and try to deploy it on Shopify stores or try to deploy it on your brands, you will never get what you want. You have to mold AI in such a way that you are solving the purpose. And here, the purpose, I believe, in conversion, the number one purpose is always building trust. And there are multiple ways to do it: reviews, or let's say putting out a lot of contents, testimonials, building your UI in such a way that it feels very premium. There are multiple ways to do it, but the underlying methodology is trust. What are your thoughts on this, Will?
Yeah, well, so trust, obviously, with like things like chatbots, is really important as well. And I remember, I don't know when this even started, but we've had chatbots for years. They've just been rubbish. They've been, here's 5 options, click the one you want, and it will pull you the relevant answer. And normally it can't interpret your question correctly. You end up getting annoyed and you leave. Now, I was actually talking to someone earlier he runs a business that does outsourced customer service, right? And so the idea is that you can actually provide potentially 24/7 customer service as an e-com brand without the overhead of having to staff someone. And because you're paying on, it's quite performance-led model. If you're getting 1 ticket an hour in the middle of the night, then you're paying someone to answer 1 ticket. You're not paying someone to sit there for an hour to answer 1 ticket. Now, I can see the benefits of using a chatbot to do that and provide that. And I've seen some pretty good bots out there recently that don't appear. You could believe that it was a real person there answering your questions, because it's really good at picking up the context. It's got the knowledge base. But when it comes to trust, you risk damaging that trust, I think, if someone finds out later that it's a chatbot. But my concern would be that if you made it clear it was a chatbot, people wouldn't use it, or potentially wouldn't use it because they think, oh, I don't want to speak to a bot. I want to speak to a real person, because a chatbot can't answer my questions.
Right.
So, like, have you found that much? How do you approach it?
Yeah, so very good question, Will, and we totally relate to it. In fact, it has been now close to 2 months since we had launched this chatbot onto the Shopify App Store, and the number one, feedback that we got from our top customers that we onboarded was, we don't want to show this chatbot as a chatbot. It should look like a
Yeah.
human. So one thing that we did was, humanize it as much as possible, and it starts not just by the way you present it, but also the way it answers. And like, if you just purely use ChatGPT to build the chatbot, like we have seen multiple chatbots now available in the market, which purely have leveraged GPT to give out answers, those feel very robotic, and the moment a customer realizes, oh my God, I thought this was a human, but now like I'm fooled, I wasted my time on it. That is it. Your brand credibility is gone forever for that customer. And not just that, that customer is going to talk about your brand for next other 10 customers, and it can damage your brand credibility. So what we made sure was the algorithm that we built was as making the bot as human as possible. From making the UI look as human as possible, you can put an avatar of human. The answer that goes out is being trained on almost 40 million plus conversations beyond chat gpt. So that is our own existing data, because we have been part of this ecosystem for last 3 years, and now the conversation that comes out looks very human. And what we have done is, we know there is no end to this part. Always we have to keep improving, and once a brand gets onboarded, the chat becomes even better. We have developed a way to collect feedback from the conversations that are happening. So on a real time basis, Bill, what we do is, to any answer that AI gives out pretending to be a human, we get that feedback back, and we constantly improve our algorithm based on that.
Yeah, that's good. I think it's what's needed. But yeah, it's just one of those. If people found out that it was a bot, is that going to cause a problem?
Absolutely.
Or if it's solved their problems, are people going to be okay with it?
Yeah. I think, Will, here I would like to add one point. So, brand credibility is one thing that a chatbot solves pretending to be a human. But if you see from an other standpoint, let's say a consumer comes on your website, and if he's searching, let's say, black shoes or anything that was searchable on your website, but today, after implementing gpt on your website, your consumer is able to search that, I'm going on a date night, what would you suggest for me? So it is actually adding an additional layer, which is making consumers job easier to buy a product. What are your thoughts on that in terms of conversions, Will?
I think there'd be a really great opportunity to link up product quizzes, search, even like filters. Obviously looking at what pages people visit, but product filters, search, quizzes, and live chat, to tie that all together, so that if someone does a bit of browsing and a search and then contacts the business, it can already kind of be like, all right, it looked like you were looking for black shoes. Let's see what you messaged me with, and then I can say, okay, black shoes. It sounds like this is what you mean. It's these black shoes. Or the other way around, and you say, well, it's had a chat with the bot. Maybe the recommendation from the bot is still not what it wants, but then the search is able to then pick up some of that data and say, well, you were searching, we know you're looking for black shoes. So the moment you click into that, it can say, do you want black shoes for men, black shoes for women? And give you those kind of top level stuff, really, but those immediate auto suggestions based on your current behavior.
Absolutely. That was number one thing that we saw in terms of getting the conversion rates higher for people who implemented Manifest AI. So we launched a feature called AI Pokes, which basically was, let's say if someone was on a product page called, let's say, black shoes, or let's say if someone was on a product page which was a brown leather bag, they were getting different AI prompts basis their customer journey onto the platform. So depending upon, let's say, if this person was browsing Excel size product throughout their customer journey. So when it lands onto another product, the AI gives a nudge saying that does this product have Excel size available? So those kind of intelligence is like definitely a must need that AI should implement to get things done and get the conversions up onto the website.
If it could tie in with maybe like heat maps and click maps and things.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so as it wouldn't be a heat map if it's an individual person, but if it can see that this person has interacted with the size chart, or it can see that they've looked at particular images or particularly looked at certain information, you know, if you could tell that someone has highlighted a certain piece of text, because that's what people do, right? Yeah. I know when you kind of sounds weird when you think about it, but I've seen it happen. As people read, they will highlight little bits of text just as they go. And so if you can see what they're highlighting, you could use that again to feed the algorithm a bit. I know there's a brand here called AO.com, and the first time I've seen this sort of functionality on a website, if you highlight something, I think it happens on highlight. I don't think it happens right. Yeah, I think that's what triggers it. Like, let's say you highlight the product name of a TV or something, it will immediately pull up a little box, and they've tested various versions, so I don't know what version is live right now, but it was pulling up a little box saying price guarantee or price match guarantee. And I've seen two versions. One version where it seemed to be pulling in data from other websites, and it told you when that data was from. So it would say last updated on the 3rd of October. And you'd be able to see I think the shipping policy, the price, and maybe something else related to the product. Then they changed it, or the next version I saw was basically just a little box saying, we have a price match guarantee if you find it somewhere cheaper. But I thought that was a really interesting little bit of functionality, which it's not AI controlled. It's just not that technical. I guess it's a JavaScript thing or something like that.
But definitely
but I thought that
we
was
can
really
power
good.
it with it. Yeah, absolutely. And on phone, it would be like someone zooms in, then it should basically trigger those AI nudges.
But you can still copy the text, can't you?
Yeah.
On a phone, but I don't know if it would trigger in the same way. Yeah, I'm not technical, so I don't know if it does it. I haven't tested it on their mobile site actually.
Yeah. Well, just curious, we are actually building this feature. Just wanted to take in your thoughts. Most of the e-commerce today is run basis the performance marketing and the ads that people run on social media, etc. So what are your thoughts around, let's say, now as AI, we have this information of where the user is coming from, basis the UTM codes that we have handy. How do you think that will play a larger role into deploying? Or, let's say, even if we don't talk about just AI, but, in terms of conversion rate optimization, how we can, make UTM parts of this AI ecosystem and promoting that?
Well, I don't know if it's happened, but Apple was talking about killing off UTMs, weren't they?
Yeah.
Which would obviously be a problem. But I think it also depends on where it's Safari that does it. Or is it the mail app? Yeah, okay. If it's Safari that does it, then you've got a problem, I think.
Yes.
So you'd always have that fallback in place. But I suppose from a CRO point of view, it's a really interesting point to make, that you've got to remember that when you run an A/B test, it's not going to it's not going to be a 50-50 split exactly how you're expecting, because there's going to be segments of people who fall outside that test. So you in theory, you could end up with a third get your variant, a third get or 2/3 get the control, but only a third are recorded as getting the control, because there's a third of people who don't get tracked or have rejected cookies or something, and so are outside that test anyway. So the test still kind of operates, but it's just something to be aware of. And if you are using, I guess, certain methods to generate those recommendations, then you just need to be aware, probably not showing to everyone.
Interesting.
But I'm in terms of recommendations, it depends who it's for, the kind of brand. I mean, it's context, isn't it? It depends on your business.
Agree.
If someone like, do you know the brand Heights?
Yeah.
Yeah. For anyone who doesn't know, but I can show you because
Yeah.
they have a really cool bottle. It's basically it's a supplement, like a multivitamin supplement thing, which hasn't sold it very well. What was I going to say? Yeah. So if they advertised a very, I know they're probably not allowed to do this because anxiety is one you're never supposed to touch, apparently. But let's say they advertised it as a way of helping with anxiety, or the general message was around anxiety. Then yes, when you click through, it would be good to be able to tailor some of that content to mention, to prioritize the anxiety related, or stress. Stress is probably a better one to use, example to use. That would be a really good way of doing it. Because it means it's relevant to me, right? So I've been, my attention's been caught by the advert, and I thought, okay, a brain supplement sounds really good. It's really good for stress, and I'm stressed. Then you read the product page or landing page, and it's all about stress, and it tells you about how certain ingredients are really good for stress. And all this messaging you're getting is stress, 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 and you're thinking, cool, this is going to help me with my stress. I'm going to buy it.
Super interesting.
Where I found it a bit less relevant is more on the kind of retail side, or where a brand just has huge amounts of products, because I found it less likely that someone is clicking through for a particular product. Let's say there's a brand, in fact, it's this brand, True Classic, t-shirt brand, doing really, really well, selling plain t-shirts and stuff. It's unlikely, I think, that if I click through an ad on a certain t-shirt of a certain color type, let's say, color palette, I think if it then just recommended me that style of t-shirt in that color palette, if I'm not interested, it's damaging. But it also means I am missing out on other stuff. Whereas in the Heights example, stress was the most important thing because that's what I clicked through on, but you can still weave the rest of the information in there.
Correct.
So I think it works really well for brands who have that specific product. So Heights, I have another one called Space Goods, which is just it's a drink.
Absolutely.
These are the sort of things where you can just tailor the content a little bit to be more relevant to the ad that someone's seen or the landing page that they came through.
Absolutely.
But yeah, product recommendations, they do work. I'm not denying that, but I think you still have to be a little bit broader with your recommendations, I think.
Absolutely. Well, in fact, this brings to me to our another topic. With Manifest AI, what we have done is we have leveraged the dead part of a website, which is basically FAQ section of a website, which brands have not even thought of even today, of leveraging it to optimize conversion. So what we have done with Manifest AI is, if someone is asking any kind of FAQ sort of questions, like you mentioned, like will this product relieve my stress? It will give an answer, and with that, it will also recommend certain products that will actually relieve stress. So what do you think in terms of why till now any brand didn't think of leveraging FAQs as part of a product recommendation engine or a conversion increase cycle?
It's interesting you mentioned FAQs, because I was thinking about this the other day. FAQs, there's so many websites where the FAQ is quite clearly not the FAQ. They're not frequently asked questions. It's just information that the brand wants those people to know. Right? They're generally vague. I mean, some of them I've seen like 3 questions on there, and it's just like, what's your shipping policy? What's your returns policy? How do I get in touch? And they're like, these are not frequently asked questions. I mean, if you don't mention your shipping policy anywhere, then that's going to be, people will ask, or your returns policy. But how do I contact you? Come on, how could that be a frequently asked question? Right? So I think there's a really good opportunity to use chatbots, quizzes, or like AI quizzes, anything like that, to, like I was mentioning earlier, like analyze the data and tell you what are actually the most frequently asked questions. Because unless you do the analysis, it's really easy to bias your own answers, which is why you have to be really careful with customer feedback analysis and the questions you ask as well. I had it for one brand that I was doing some research for. It was for a pillow that's their biggest selling point was that it was for neck pain. And I remember reading through this feedback, must have been a couple of hundred responses, and something that came up was stiffness, right? So we'd had loads of it helps with my neck pain, it helps with my shoulder pain, even hip pain a little bit, but stiffness came up a couple of times. And I ended that little session of research thinking stiffness, like we haven't been talking about stiffness, this is it, like that came up. And then when I double checked it and had a look, I think it had been mentioned twice in 200 responses. I was like, okay, maybe that's not, but it's really easy to kind of walk away from it thinking,
absolutely,
this is what came up. And I think that's what can happen when you speak to your customer service team and say, could you please report on like what were the most common things that popped up this week? If they're not tracking it and using a report, it's really easy to pick out something that was new, because new is memorable.
Absolutely. I totally agree to that. It is important to fix every part of your brand that is available online. You cannot leave even a single piece without fixing it and thinking your conversions are like the best you can do in the world.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, so yeah, Will, before we take a leave from this webinar, we are almost time. There are a couple of questions here that we'll cover. The first question is from Camorine. Just apology if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly. You have asked, will Manifest AI only be available on Shopify, or is it available for WordPress sites, for example? So currently we are only available on Shopify, though we work with enterprise brands which are non-Shopify. So it depends upon case-to-case basis. You can definitely get in touch with us, and we'll hopefully, work with you. But from a SMB to mid-market level of brands, we are currently just available on Shopify. There's another question from Saad. Does Manifest AI provide details about order delivery right in the chat if third-party shipment is used? Absolutely. So it depends upon which shipment you want to, integrate, etc., or are integrated with Shopify. What Manifest AI does is, since your shipping details are being transferred to Shopify already, we have those information already synced. So any kind of order details, if they are on in progress, if they are shipped, etc., item level details, everything is being answered by Manifest AI chatbot. So I hope this answer helps you. And anything else, Will, from your end, or are we good to go?
Yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to chat about CRO, drop me a message on LinkedIn or go to customerswhoclick.com. Always happy to just chat, answer a few questions. Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for joining in today. I have dropped in my calendar as well. If you want to check out Manifest, or if you want to personally chat with me in terms of how AI can contribute to e-commerce, we are happy to have that chat. Thank you so much, Will, for joining in today. We had a lovely conversation.
No problem. Thanks for having me. Oh, hang on. There's one question.
Yeah. Oh.
If a customer discovers that chatbot as a bot, it's bad. Will it work if we project as a bot itself, or customers would totally avoid? I think it's worth testing. I think you just need to be clever about the messaging.
Yeah.
It was, I feel like I've said this a couple of times today already, but it was something I was discussing this morning, actually, around basically when you have a live chat, but you haven't got agents available. If it's visible that the agents aren't available, then people just won't engage with it at all. So what we want to do is say, if they're not available, we still want people to ask the question and then let them know we're unavailable, because then at least we capture the question.
Correct.
We can tag that up and say, this was a question that was asked, and also someone can follow up. But I think you kind of, I guess, position it a bit similar. You can kind of I was on an estate agent website earlier, actually, that they positioned it as an assistant. So it was like your real estate assistant. And then very quickly it just connected you with someone. Yeah, I think it just depends how you do it. I think it's got to be a smooth process. So if you can find a way, and actually I was thinking about this when you were talking earlier, if you could almost find a way of saying, let me get my manager to check, or something like that.
Yeah, that's very intelligent. Yeah.
And then maybe you have a chat, a service, a CS agent take over, but you don't visibly change anything.
Yeah.
So as far as they're concerned, they're still talking to the same person, but you've actually got a human that's taken over the conversation. Yeah. I think that could be a good way of doing it.
That's a master stroke, Will, because now the consumer would think that you have also included a higher authority to answer the question that the person had. So
yeah, exactly. So you might be able to give yourself like a couple of minutes to notify an agent and say, or even like 3 or 4 minutes, and say, could you just hold? I'll check with a manager. The only problem with that is, it only works with questions that are tough for the bot.
Yeah.
So Alexander's in the chat saying, be transparent about using AI. Yeah, it's a difficult one.
Yeah. And I think it's a brand's choice, right? Like how they want to showcase it. We should leave that up to brand on how they want to position it.
Like, I mean, my view is kind of, if it's best, do what's best for the customer, right? And if what's best for the customer is giving them an AI experience, then that's fine. I think if you misled someone, if you had a message which said you are chatting to a real person and it was AI, that's a big issue.
Yeah.
But I think if you can find a way to just transition it, maybe that's best. Yeah. I hope that answers the question. But yeah, I mean, I guess my feeling is, if someone knew it was a bot, it's likely your interaction rate is going to drop massively.
Absolutely. And bad of word of mouth. if in case,
Oh, I don't think it would be that bad. If you're upfront about it, I mean, if it says this is like, it's clear this is a chatbot that you're engaging with, I just think your interaction rate with it will drop, and that's going to potentially damage conversions. But yeah,
and I think Will, I honestly believe the way people shop is going to change online in coming years. The way people are changing the way they are searching internet. People have moved from searching on Google and then going through the links that comes up and then clicking on one of those and then browsing the content, versus now they're directly going to ChatGPT asking questions. I think e-commerce in some way will move in that direction with time. And I think in some way I agree with Alexander as well. Being transparent is the best way to run the business. So definitely, if world's moving there, then it's no harm showing that there is an AI that's helping.
I think an absolute no go would be using a video AI chatbot. I don't know if the tech's there yet, but it's got to be close. But yeah, if you made it seem like you are having a one-to-one video chat with a person and it's actually a bot,
no.
I think you'll get found. It will get found out quite quickly, because someone will work it out very quickly, and that's going to be damaging.
Yeah, and never play with humans' emotion. You never know where it will take you. So it's
you got to be careful with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for joining in today. Thank you so much, Will, for having with us. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye, guys.